Hey guys, welcome back. Thanks for clicking on the video. I'm sorry, I'm about to get ready and go to work in a little bit, and I'm going to be touching up my makeup while I'm talking to you guys. Never mind that. As usual, I let you guys know my videos are just for educational purposes only. If y'all could see this, let me just show you. Let me just show you. Look at this. I'm sorry, you guys, but I don't know if it's just me or what. I have never known the trees here in the South where I'm at to stay this vibrant until almost December. I have noticed that the colors this year are just, and that's orange and red, and I'm sorry, they're just magnificent. I've been taking photographs. Isn't it beautiful? I just can't get over it. They're everywhere. All these rich, lovely colors. And I don't know, maybe it's just me, but I've never noticed them to stay that way here where I'm at all the way up until almost December. Just gorgeous. But it hasn't really gotten that cold here yet. All right, guys, so let's get into it. This video, I only have a few minutes. I'm going to cut this one kind of short. I might do a part 2. I did finish my disclaimer. Educational purposes only. Can't be responsible for what happens outside the video. I just like to spread awareness and share information. That's all. But in this video, I want to quickly get into our healthy narcissism versus toxic narcissism, or being a narcissistic abuser, predator, or toxic person. I'm sure I've posted about this before, but I feel like it's time to do it again because I see a lot going on the internet, confusion, questions. This is really a complex topic. You know, I don't blame anyone who feels confused by understanding narcissism, what it really is, what it's really rooted in, how it really gets started, because there's a lot of levels and layers to it, okay? It's a complex thing to understand. Even myself, growing up in it, dating several people like that, and then devoting my time later on to actually focusing on researching it and studying more, it still took me years to really get a full and deep understanding of it, okay? And so, basically, here's the deal. I know that people mean well. There's a lot of narcissistic abuse recovery groups. There's a lot going on out there. But we have to be careful who we listen to. And that's just not going to cut it. Just listening to one person, we don't really know their credentials, or just reading one article or getting it from one source, one experience, it's just not enough, okay? If we really want to be fully aware and fully educated on what something is, we really have to devote ourselves to doing our own research, digging deeper, going beyond more than one source, making sure our sources are credible, and really apply ourselves to a lot of time and devotion to understanding it better, okay? And so, here's what people don't get. I hear so much misunderstanding on this. The word narcissist often has a negative connotation, yes. And people use that term to describe everything these days. That's a narcissist. Narcissist this, narcissist that. Okay, I'm glad that the collective is picking up on this and we're learning more and more. But we need to be careful so that innocent people aren't wrongly accused or misjudged, and so that the real predators aren't slipping off into the sunset, fooling everyone, and we're missing it. And people are still getting taken advantage of because they don't know exactly what to look for and what's what. So it is important that we really know these things and be aware, okay? So, like the title says, why is it that we are all narcissists? Or I forgot exactly what I titled it. Why is it that we all need some narcissism? Or why are we all narcissists? Okay. Okay, guys, guess what? We are born with a primary narcissism, right? Some of you know this, some of you don't. I didn't for a long time. I'm so glad I started studying and running across the information. We're born narcissists. We're helpless infants. Feed me, care for me, on demand, right? Right. Okay. We throw temper tantrums when we don't get our way. Every damn thing is about us. Our parents have to drop everything. It doesn't matter if the parent's tired, hungry, whatever, what have you. But we're a kid, so that's excusable. But after a certain age, we're supposed to be able to come through the attachment with our parents in a normal and healthy way. And if all the little needs have been met in our life and we've had the proper guidance and love and nurturing and discipline, consequences and teaching, then for the most part, we grow up and we can gravitate out of all of that primary narcissism. Now, I know in the teens it gets worse. We were all teenagers. We know teenagers think of their parents as a bank and a taxi cab half the time, and that's just their emotional immaturity. But we forgive that narcissism, right? Because of their age, because we know they haven't fully matured yet, right? As we get on into our 20s and 30s, we continue maturing in our emotional intelligence and emotional maturity. And for the most part, if everything came off in a well-balanced way in childhood, and there aren't any undealt with wounds there, for the most part, we all smooth out, and we all have a normal amount of empathy, which is on a spectrum, and we have a normal, healthy amount of, yes, narcissism, which is on a spectrum. We don't outgrow all that narcissism, or we wouldn't do anything. Our healthy narcissism is basically a well-regulated, well-balanced ego with a normal, well-balanced level of confidence about ourselves, a normal, well-balanced level of self-esteem, highly motivated. We can be self-motivated. That is our healthy narcissism. We're able to protect ourselves from others when we need to. We're able to set boundaries with others because we have a normal amount of self-respect, self-esteem, and that's just it, self-love. That is our healthy narcissism. So when I hear the word narcissist, I'm thinking, damn, what do they mean? Because a lot of times people are actually sitting up judging normal, confident, healthy people just because they might be motivated, outspoken, assertive, grand, animated. They might be a little cocky, a little arrogant, and I will have to do a part 2 to this, okay? Because I know I'm going to run out of time because I have more to say about those things. But you get where I'm going with this, okay? Arrogant and cocky isn't always bad. We are all guilty of sitting up watching performers and television shows where there's a cocky or arrogant person and laughing our ass off at them or wishing we could have said that or whatever and feeling highly entertained by them and then getting off of there and hating another person for acting that way or feeling cringy about somebody else, you know. Okay, I'm just saying, we have healthy narcissism, and it can sometimes get confused with the grandiose narcissist, the toxic levels of narcissism, okay? We're going to talk about that in a minute. I actually have an alarm set with a timer on my phone when it will be time for me to cut off, when I'm going to run out of space, so I can talk up until the end, guys, and then I will finish this in a part 2. But I really, this bothers me, because now that I know it, and I was so perplexed by it for many years, I would ask myself, well, you know, in a toxic relationship, well, am I the narcissist? What is the narcissist? What exactly does that mean? How does it start? Where does it all come from? What are the different types? Well, you know, I do feel this way sometimes, and people were able to trap me and confuse me. So I decided I would apply myself to researching more and more and devoting the time to the education and the study and really understand it on all of the levels. You guys, psychologist Lena Durhali, which I'm very fond of, wrote a book called My Daddy is a Hero, How Chris Watts Went from Family Man to Family Murderer. It is about the Chris Watts murder case. In that book, Ms. Durhali breaks down narcissism, psychopathy, sociopathy, and she really gives us a good, easy to understand idea of what narcissism is, how it begins, why we need some narcissism, how it's on a spectrum, little bit more, a lot. It's on a spectrum, you guys, okay? Some people have a little bit. Some people have a healthy amount. Some people have a moderately high amount. Some people have a little bit more. Some people are off the charts. They're abusive, fucking toxic serial killers, okay? It's all different levels on the spectrum. And we have to have that as she broke it down in the book, or we wouldn't even get up and look at the day. We wouldn't even have enough ego, self-esteem, or confidence to even face anyone, to carry off any projects, to even get up and get dressed. Why bother? We would have no confidence in ourselves, no faith in ourselves. We would let everyone trample us. We would have no protective boundaries, no self-esteem, no self-respect. We have to have some narcissism. So this is what I really want people to understand. It has such a cringy reputation. And when people hear the word narcissism or narcissist, yes, it's immediately going to go to this horrible creature, abusive, horrible. Okay, I get that. I get that, because usually that's what it is. But I still think it's important that we have a full understanding, okay? That not everyone who exhibits certain characteristics is a toxic narcissist to the abusive end of the spectrum, nor are they a narcissistic predator or abuser. Okay, there's a lot of differences, and we're going to get more into those in part 2 of this. So please tune in for the second part, because I'm going to have to cut this one in a minute. But yeah, it's when narcissism goes rogue. It's when something in childhood wasn't met. We didn't come through those balances okay. Something went on. We were neglected or abused or traumatized or overindulged. No consequences, no guidance, no rules for us. We got away with whatever we wanted. That can cause it too. And there's an identity split in the young child as they are growing up and forming in their emotions and their emotional intelligence. And they start putting up defense walls to protect something that is broken in their ego, something that didn't form correctly. I'm not a doctor, and I'm not an expert, and I'm not claiming to be. I'm just relaying my basic understanding of this. It's always good to do your own research. Don't just listen to me or anyone. Go and double check, do lots of research with lots of credible sources so that you can get a really good understanding. But the false identity, if a child is traumatized or they didn't get enough of something as a child, something goes wrong in their ego and forming of their self-esteem and feeling good about themselves, and they can split off, and a false identity comes in to protect them. I'm tough. I don't need that. I don't feel things. And all of these tactics and things begin forming in them to protect that wounded ego, and it goes from there. As far as the child that's overindulged, always got their way, kind of like Casey Anthony. I'm going to cover some stuff on her case at some point. I think that's kind of what happened with her. I think she was overindulged by the parents. As far as I know, she wasn't physically or mentally abused, although that really can be emotional and psychological abuse when you don't discipline your children, when you don't give them proper consequences for their actions and guidance that they need. That can be a form of abuse and neglect. Yes. Now, as far as how the narcissism develops in a child, it would make sense that was never given any consequences for their behavior. They were always able to manipulate the parents and get what they want, never have any consequences for that. I can see that causing a very narcissistic adult. But also in the traumatic environment as children, the trauma brain, children who are beaten or molested or mental cruelty, psychological abuse, neglected, abandoned, things like that. Yes, statistically, that is what causes most high narcissism and narcissistic personality disorder in adults, is the trauma stuff. But that makes sense as well, how that would form. Now, I have to do further research, but I do believe, just like mental illness, full-blown narcissistic personality disorder. It's a personality disorder that is like mental illness. It's one of the cluster B personality disorders: antisocial, borderline personality disorder, and histrionic. Narcissistic personality disorder is one of those 4 cluster B personality disorders. Those disorders, out of all disorders and mental illnesses, are feared and hated by people the most, because people under the cluster B types of personality disorders tend to use and abuse other people. So, I believe it is about time for me to clip this, and I will definitely come back in a part 2 and finish this up, you guys. So, I thank you for tuning into this one. I'm sorry it's cutting off so short, but join me in part 2. We're going to wrap it up with the rest of this information. Okay, guys? Thanks for watching.